Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss McKee McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours Shirley on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena go again the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app today, wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, so you can catch up on the live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So you happen to miss them, go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, please follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And what about our podcast, Second City Sports? Glad you asked. You can subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of War Media, please give them a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. You have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show? You can hit us up at the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But decide to troll and or do something stupid, I've given Lakeena full power to give you fools to build and be built.
Bye-bye.
Hello, she says that. But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right, so no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that Sports Voter and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPad, iPhone, iTouch, your personal PC, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, just head over to Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we can provide.
We will provide all of that for you. Whatever device you have, we will provide that. So yeah, what's up? What's up, Brandon? And you know what? Your timing is perfect because I know Brandon's our buddy Brandon Schultz is a big big NBA fan, I should say. So we're gonna get to this whole hour talking about the NBA and NBA playoffs and such. We'll talk baseball and other stuff happening. So we'll get to all that. We got a lot to do with this 2-hour extravaganza. So let's get right to it and talk some NBA playoffs and okay, well, if you're expecting a game, Game 7 is always a great. There's nothing two words like it in sports. No matter what, whether it's baseball, basketball, hockey, what have you. Game 7 is the best. Unfortunately, this Game 7 will not make that declaration as probably one of the best. But yes, yep, you can. Yeah, yes, Brandy, you can put it on your Roku device. Whether it's your smart TV, your phone, whatever you got. So yeah, you can, download Sports Zone Chicago on your Roku device. Come on, you didn't know that, Brandon. So yeah, going back into this Game 7, that was kind of a laugher. The Celtics just hammered the Sixers. You know what, Sid? I mean, I turned this game off after that third quarter because it was just, oh god, that was just, oh god, I mean that was just an awful display there. 51 points from Jason Tatum, which is the most by any player in a Game 7, which you would think is a little bit odd to say that. It's with all the history of all the great Game 7s that have been in display in the in the playoffs especially. But he was 11 for 14 from the field. He was 6 for 10 from 3, and just 7 for 28 from the field. Just an all and out one man band, I guess you say, from Mr. Tatum. And as for the Sixers, Joel Embiid, I know he's going to get the brunt of this. He only had 15, but Harden only had 9 points. If you're trying to get to a conference finals, your 2 stars need to actually do good. But what about the rest of your supporting cast? PJ Tucker, okay, yeah, you could have done more. Tobias Harris, yeah, you had 19, but you could have done more. Maxey, 17 points, but it was just I don't know what to say, Sid, because this is I just I can't.
Yeah, for Philadelphia, you only had 17 points from your bench. I know many of that came in garbage time when the game was out of reach, but it's still inexcusable. You mentioned Jason Tatum; he was a one-man show. Philadelphia actually kept the game close at halftime. I know they were trailing by 3, but Jason Tatum scored half of his 51 in the first half, including 14 big points in that second quarter to get Boston back in the game. I liked Philadelphia's game plan coming out. They fed the beast, Joel Embiid. He had a couple of and ones included in there. I said, okay, they established it early. You thought that James Harden, and you mentioned Tobias Harris and PJ Tucker would get going. After that first quarter, you can start to see some signs in that second quarter when Boston was starting to get back in the game. And you mentioned Jason Tatum. He carried that momentum from Thursday night's Game 6 performance in that fourth quarter, and he expanded it on Sunday. Now, that third quarter did the Sixers, and they only scored 10 total points in that quarter. And Boston turned up their defense, and the route was on. Boston is perhaps the best defensive team as a whole in the league next to the Miami Heat. We'll preview that series in our next half hour. But what the Celtics did yesterday, they did put on a clinic defensively. Philadelphia couldn't shoot a lick from the outside, especially from the three-point range. And that's one of the reasons why Boston won yesterday. Jason Tatum said, and I'm going to carry this team on my back. Like I said, he carried the momentum from Thursday night's fourth quarter in Game 6. And Boston took advantage of it. Now, on the flip side for Philadelphia, they had that one shot to knock out Boston in Game 6. They led the entire way into that fourth quarter, and it didn't happen. Once you knew that Boston came back to win last Thursday on the road, you knew that Game 7, we all thought it was going to be competitive, but I didn't think it was going to be like this, like you said, Lakeena. But shout out to the Boston Celtics. They put on the clinic on how to win games in this league, especially in this high-paced scoring league the era that we are in right now. Defense still gets the job done when you need it most.
Yeah, I mean, that game, that Game 6, did them in. I think that's when they lost the series. They had their chances to, put them away late. They didn't do it. Tatum, started heating up from the 3, especially. Those 10 points, as aforementioned, 10 points that said that the Sixers scored in the third is tied for the fewest in a playoff quarter in the shot clock era. So, not a good distinction there. Also, Tatum is the first player to have 50 plus points, 10 plus rebounds, and 5 assists in a series clinching win. And he now has a 50-point game in the regular season game, the play-in tournament from a few years ago, All-Star game, playoff game, and now a Game 7. He also is the 51st person to score 50 points in the regular season, postseason, and All-Star game all in the same season. So I think I got all that. That with what Tatum has done. And look, if you saw what he said after when they went on that run and they kind of pulled away from the Sixers, he said, "Look, this is my bleep. I can't say what he really said. This is my." So he was definitely shows you why he's one of the top players in the league. And this was actually after Jaylen Brown had 25 points, so it wasn't like he did it all by himself. I'm talking about Tatum, but it was after them that's really kind of what sort of did them, and they really didn't get a lot of contributions from anybody else, and that could be important in their next series. We'll get to that in a second, but it seems like Boston wanted more, and I think that's kind of what propelled this in the end, was because of the fact that they were hitting their shots. They got the defense up a little bit. Joe Mazzulla, to his credit, said, "Look, Tatum's the guy." So I'm just disappointed in the Sixers, because I thought they had a shot to win this series. I'm surprised Doc still has a job. We'll keep you updated if he does get fired, but I'm a little surprised by that. You heard Embiid's comments after the game about, look, we need help. Well, they do, and look, I mean, there wasn't the depth was there for the Sixers. They just didn't do anything.
Yeah, and also, too, on the flip side for Boston, Jaylen Brown scored 25 points. Malcolm Brogdon, who's been an unsung hero for the Celtics throughout the season, especially throughout the playoffs, he scored 12 points off the bench. And I think the Joe Mazzulla, like I said, the new Celtics head coach, he's going to need some production from his bench in the next series against Miami. As we said, we'll preview that series coming up after the break. But you got some contributions from your bench yesterday. Robert Williams, if I remember, he was injured off and on last year. He provided some much-needed defense inside. He's going to have to do that against this Miami Heat team in the next round, but he played well yesterday. So as you mentioned, Jason Tatum carried the Celtics on his back, and his rest of his teammates followed. But in terms of back to the offense, Lakeena, Philadelphia only shot the ball 21% from three, while Boston shot at a 45% clip. And then at the rebounding department, Boston was a +6 at 43-37. So Philadelphia couldn't shoot it consistently when they needed the most. Me personally, I blame more on James Harden. I know he's a different player now than he was a few years ago, but still, he's still one of the top 10, top 15 players in this league when he's right. Remember, Lakeena, I was saying this on our shows last week, especially with Harden's Game 1 performance and Game 4 performance last Sunday afternoon. When he decides to drive the ball to the basket, it opens up the game for him and his teammates. Outside of games 1 and 4, he really didn't have an impact on it. So he falls in love with that jump shot a little bit too much, and when it's not hidden, it goes for not poof. There he goes. So goes to 76ers.
And that's what happened. Look, they got a lot to think about during the off season because this, I mean, it's just unfortunate that this is how it's going to end for them. Should they either blow it up or try to reload? So we'll see what happens. As listen to Second C Sports on Sports on Chicago, Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, with you, and another team that's returning to the conference finals, and they clinch on Friday, and that is we can go through this game before we go to break. The Lakers outlasted the Warriors 122-101. You thought that maybe this game would be a little bit closer since the last game was closer, but unfortunately that ended up not being the case. And of course, LeBron had 30 points to 30 points as he led the way there, and a double by AD, 17 points and 20 boards. A lot of defensive boards. He had 17 defensive boards that helped the Lakers pull away from the Warriors, and it was really their supporting cast. Austin Reeves had 23, D'Angelo Russell had 19, and so they got a lot of juice from the guys outside of LeBron and AD, and I think that's going to be the key here, and they're definitely going to need. We'll get to the conference finals previews in a second, but Wiggins, unfortunately, with injury, got that that injury was bothering him. He only had 6 points. Steph did what he could, but Klay Thompson struggled. He only had 8 points. They were 13 for 48 from 3-point range, the Warriors were. So that's not going to do it for you. And look, our girl Kylie Mills, who does a great job of co-hosting the Lockdown Warriors, I know she's been saying that could this be the end of that core, with Steph and Klay and Draymond. So I don't know. What do you think about this series?
It all comes down to a couple of key players in the series. So one of the reasons why the Warriors are not moving on. Steph Curry, he did what he could, but he needs help. Klay Thompson, he did have a great regular season, but his shooting was off, especially during this series against the Lakers. You mentioned he only had 8 points on Friday. Draymond Green, Lakeena, remember I was asking you and our guy Josh Hess from Warren Media last year, was he losing it? And of course, he had that little scuffle with Jaylen Brown and during the finals last year, which helped turn that series around for Golden State, which they ended up winning that title last year. But I know that he feels like he wants to end his career with the Warriors, but he only has 1 year on that contract, which is next year. I think that we'll get into this more deeper after the break, but I think the Warriors should try and trade him, but I don't know who's going to want him. I believe he's 33, 34. At least he'll be 34 by the time next season starts. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Of course, Steph Curry is still on the contract. I think Klay Thompson's still on the contract for at least 1 more year next year. So, and then GM Bob Myers, he's technically a free agent July 1st. So that could change some things a little bit. So, like I said, we'll get into that after the break. But as far as back to this series is concerned, not enough interior defense, in my opinion, for the Warriors. We all knew that Anthony Davis and Draymond Green was going to be two main targets for each team in this series. Anthony Davis did what he could in this series, so he has to be proud of himself. But on the flip side for the Warriors, Jordan Poole, now could they Warriors move him? I'm not sure. He didn't have a good series. Jonathan Kuminga, he didn't see much playing time. During the playoffs, the rotation shortened up anyway. So the Warriors, the supporting cast that you thought would come through, they didn't come through. We can talk about Klay Thompson and Steph Curry all day. But as we always say, Lakeena, your supporting cast, you need help from them as well, especially during this time of year. And you didn't get enough of that from the Warriors squad.
Yeah, and I think Bob Myers, I think, that our girl Kyla said the same thing. Like, that's really going to be the key. If he decides to re-sign with the Warriors, I think, they'll try to maybe trade Draymond and get something for him. I'm try to get bring on another like veteran shooter and such. Maybe another big guy that can play interior defense. But if he does, I'm talking about Bob Myers. If he doesn't re-sign them, I mean, could the next GM, whoever, let's say promote in the house, could they blow it up? We'll have to wait and see. Because remember, the Draymond just turned 33 a couple months ago. So
Okay.
by the time the playoffs start next year, he will be 34. So you wonder, do you try to maybe trade him? Try to get something for him. And look, I think there's a lot to be decided here, and we'll have to wait and see. But I think Myers is going to be the real key here.
Yep. We'll have more NBA playoff talk after the break. Speaking of the Miami Heat, they move on to face the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll review their victory from last Friday against the New York Knicks. Will the New York Knicks continue to build upon what happened this season, or could we see some minor changes from the folks in the NYC? We'll have that. We'll have some coaching news to discuss with you, and we'll give our short thoughts on John Morant and a whole lot more. As our basketball power hour continues on Second City Sports, the Monday edition, we're live in living color. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Whoa. Welcome back to Second City Sports, in the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena McGee on the IG.
And if you have any questions or comments for us during our 2-hour extravaganza, now 85 minutes so left in this show, we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You can always hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. As we continue our NBA playoff talk for our Power Hour, let's review last Friday's Eastern Conference semifinal series between the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks. Joining the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals will be the Miami Heat after they defeated the New York Knicks, coming back from a 14-point deficit, 96-92. Jalen Brunson had a game-high 41 for the New York Knicks. Jimmy Butler led the Miami Heat with 25. Lakeena, both these teams couldn't shoot a lick to save their lives, both from the two and from the three. But it was a hustle plays down the stretch. It was the defense that was turned up by the Miami Heat that led to this win. Lakeena, I'll start on the flip side for the New York Knicks. I think if Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson were healthier, I think they would have beaten the Heat. But since Julius Randle, he gave you what he had, so you can't get mad at that. But I think if he was a little bit more healthier, I thought they could have pulled out the upset. I'm talking about the Knicks over the Heat, but he wasn't at his 100% best. He did give it a go, but it just wasn't enough. You need a superstar to go with Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. And on the flip side for the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler is the real deal. We saw the beginnings of him as his growth here in Chicago. He's been doing it for years now with the Miami Heat. He wants to carry this team back to the NBA Finals. He gave a heck of a performance down the stretch on Friday.
Yeah, and well, it would have been an upset because remember the Heat. I mean, the Knicks were 1, and remember the Heat came from the play, and they were an 8th seed. So to say that it would have been an upset, they would have been kind of an insult to them. But as far as like I said, the Knicks are concerned. I mean, look, I think the Knicks. Look, we've seen this movie before with the Knicks. I mean, they did what they could. With them not being 100%, they didn't get a lot of. They really did get a lot of contributions, off the bench. So I know Obi Toppin had some of his struggles. I know Miles McBride was really like the only bright spot for them. He had 11 points. So there really wasn't much. I mean, look. I mean, Brunson did what he could, with the base on one leg, 41 points. That's nothing to sneeze at. But we've seen this movie before, Sid, where the top guys for a Tibbs coach team, do well, but then it's outside of the. It's been off the bench, guys that not a lot of contributions there. Now, give the Heat credit. I mean, look, they you thought that maybe they were able to they were up, they were down early. They were they had that big one, 27-19, outscoring the Knicks there in the second quarter. Really didn't look back. I mean, the Knicks had their chance to try to at least make it interesting, perhaps maybe even take the lead, but Brunson missed a couple of big shots. And Kevin Love, he only had 3 points, but he actually did some big contributions. Like he had a couple of big defensive stops, and Butler had a couple of big defensive stops. Bam, had a couple key blocks. I mean, and some steals. I mean, look, it was definitely a team effort. It wasn't the prettiest game 6, but look, you got the win if you're Miami, and look, I think they're showing you why. I know some people thought that Miami would be left for dead after getting their butts kicked by Atlanta in the first play-in, but that they've been able to bounce back. They're going back to the Eastern Conference Finals for the 10th time, and their ninth trip since 2000 that actually ties with both the Lakers and the Celtics. So that's that's kind of a testament to Eric Spoelstra, what he's been able to do with that team.
Yeah, and speaking of Eric Spoelstra, I don't know if you caught some of our colleagues, Jason Palmer, of course, Russell Cuz will be on tonight at 6 o'clock right here on Sports on Chicago Central Standard Time. But he was guest starring with our guy Sean Sierra and Sean and Maya in the morning earlier today. I thought this was a fair question. We brought this up too on our show. When will Eric Spoelstra get credit for actually doing a good job with the Miami Heat when he wins a title without LeBron, Wade, and Bosh? Because I know some people would say, well, he lucked up into that. Okay, I get it. He did what he was supposed to do. You won 2 titles out of 4 straight trips to the finals. Okay, good job. But he's done his best coaching job ever since those guys left. And they went to the finals 3 years ago. Yes, even though it was in a bubble, it still counts. He damn near got him back back to the finals last year if it wasn't for a couple of bad plays at home in Game 7. So Eric Spoelstra is one of the best head coaches in the league. He gets the most out of his guys. He comes from the Pat Riley tree. I think, unfortunately, for some national folks, they will probably give him a pat on the back if and when he wins that title without LeBron and Wade Bosh. I think it's unfair. I get it's the nature of our business, but Eric Spoelstra is one of the top 5, top 10, realistically, one of the top 10 head coaches in our game that we have today.
Especially in recent years. I mean, you got to put him in that team picture. And I hate that he's not getting his due because, well, someone had to coach Bosh, Roy Allen, and LeBron. So and Wade too. I mean, that's come on. I mean, they somebody had to coach them up. I mean, they couldn't coach themselves. I'm sure people thought LeBron was the coach of that team, but Eric Spoelstra was there. And I think that might be the only way he'll probably will get his due if they do win the title. Remember, they were close a couple years ago in the bubble. People forget that. Actually, all 4 of these teams, were in the bubble Final Four, I guess, if you will, from 2020. The Celtics, the Heat, the Nuggets, and the Lakers. So, these 4 teams will all be facing each other. It's kind of an even playing field now. And as far as the Celtics Heat, series, we'll go ahead and start previewing that. Look, I think people forget. I mean, both these teams split their regular season series. It's going to be, for me, I think it's really going to be the supporting cast, I feel like, because, you're going to get, Butler and Bam, they're going to do their thing, but Max Strus need to step up. Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson. I mean, and, Kyle Lowry to show the kind of Kyle Lowry we saw, in Toronto when they won their championship. He won his championship with Kawhi. So I think it's really going to be just a supporting cast. I mean, Boston, same thing. I mean, yes, you got Tatum, yes, you got Brown, but Marcus Smart, Grant Williams. These are the guys that Robert Woods. I mean, these are the guys that they need to step up. Al Horford needs to kind of step up a little bit too. So, to me, it's really going to depend on, like I said, the supporting cast. I mean, not worried about what the top guys are going to do. It's really going to be the supporting cast on what they're going to do.
I think it's going to come down to these 2 things in this series for Boston, Miami. Offensive rebounding and points in the paint. Remember, Miami had a plus 18 advantage over the Knicks on last Friday night in their closeout game, 38-20 in points in the paint. Of course, you had Bam Adebayo. Like you said, Kevin Love, he's not a scoring threat anymore, but he can give you what he has left as far as defensively and with the intangibles. On the flip side, for Boston, like you said, Al Horford needs to show up a little bit more. Remember, he had that Fountain Youth game during the finals last year in that first game against the Golden State. And he had his moments, too, in last year's Eastern Conference Final Series against the Miami Heat, which the Celtics won in 7 games on the road. So on the flip, like I said, for Boston, like I said, I'm looking at Al Horford. I'm looking at both Grant and Robert Williams III and to see what they could do. And also, too, like you said, can Boston get more production out of their bench outside of Malcolm Brogdon? That's going to be a key, too. So I'm looking at points in the paint, and it's not just rebounding, but offensive rebounding. Whoever gets those extra possessions, which we think there's going to be a key in this series, because both these teams, they're not high-scoring teams. Boston can do it, but you assume that Miami's going to set the tone early defensively because, they're not going to score over 115, 120 points a game. That's not how they're built. They're built from the inside out. They're built as a defensive team. So I'm looking at offensive rebounding and points in the paint.
Yeah, this will be their 3rd Eastern Conference Finals, meaning the last 4 seasons. Of course, last year, the Celtics got the best of the Heat in 7, and he actually has won 3 of the 5 series against Boston. So take that for as you will, but yeah, I think you set the tone earlier for the Heat. Try to slow down. Look, Tatum and Brown will get their shots. I mean, I think that's gonna be hard, but if you can get your guys to step up, get your supporting guys to step up and set that tone early, especially defensively, and also to experience. I mean, look, both these teams it's not like these teams have come out of nowhere. I mean, these 2 teams have been around for the last few years, so it's going to be interesting to see that tone setting. I think that's really going to be the key. And like you said, I mean, the defensive tone, especially, we know both these teams can play defense, so who's going to get the best of the other? I think that's going to be the key here, and I think that's what's going to take the series, I believe. The Eastern Conference is exclusively on TNT. The first game 1 of that series will start at 7:30 Chicago time on Wednesday.
Yep. And now to the Western Conference Finals, which tips off tomorrow, Tuesday. For those of you that are listening back on our playback on at War Media Podcast, it'll feature the Los Angeles Lakers against the Denver Nuggets. Of course, Denver eliminated the Phoenix Suns in 6 games, and while the Lakers did it, eliminating the Warriors also in 6 games. Lakeena, I'll start with you. What's going to be your key factors for this Western Conference Finals series coming into this series? The Lakers are the 7th seed. No one expected them to be here, but they took off, especially after the trade deadline acquisitions, and they eliminated the defending world champs. But they're going to have a tough task defending Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, I mean, I know that everybody wants to talk about that when they met in the bubble and such. I mean, these were a little bit different back then, and people also got to remember Jokic is not the Jokic we're seeing right now. That was from a few years ago. So it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like I said, the same thing, about this series as with the Celtics Heat series. It's gonna be about setting the tone. They have, their series is also tied, 2-2. So it's really going to depend. And I think one of those was when LeBron was out. So that could be the factor here. I think AD and LeBron they have to set the tone early. Look, Jokic. I mean, Jokic will get his shots. I think the key is going to be slowing down some of the other guys around him. Can you slow down Murray? Can you slow down Aaron Gordon? I mean, that's really going to be the key. And I think as far as the Lakers is concerned, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Dennis Schroeder. I mean, those guys all need to step up as well. And also your bench guys. It's good. Like I said, I know Caldwell Pope's gonna be interesting for Denver. Roy Hachimura, we didn't really hear too much of him in the last series with the Warriors. He's got to step it up in this final. Like I said, it's really going to depend on like which team kind of set the tone, or also experience too. I mean, yes, Nuggets have been there a few years ago, but look, this is all half for LeBron and AD. So, like I said, it's really going to depend on, will it be experience? Will it be the tone setting? Will it be Jokic be the wild card? It's going to be interesting to see what this goes. I know I've seen some people already pick the Nuggets in 5, which I think that's kind of an insult to them, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's going to come down to these 3 factors. Team assist, who's going to pass the ball with crisp action, which means limiting the turnovers. Like you said, Jokic is going to get his for the Nuggets. Can you shut down Jamal Murray? Can you shut down Aaron Gordon if you're the Lakers? So it's going to come down to assists. It's going to come down to team defense. Going back to the Lakers early from my comment just a moment ago, can you neutralize Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown coming off the bench? Because, like you said, Jokic is going to get his. Jamal Murray, we know when he heats up, he doesn't stop, but at times he can have bad shooting nights, and that should come out for the Denver Nuggets. They're in trouble, and it plays right into the Lakers' hands. And number 3, bench production. As we talked about throughout these playoffs, Lakeena, even though this is the best talented, I don't want to say the best talented, but it's the best roster help that LeBron has had since winning the championship 3 years ago. We all know that the Lakers are not a great 3-point shooting team. They're not. They never have been. They never will be. Not with this bunch anyway. But it's going to come down to bench production, and especially with Hachimura. He scored 9 points on Friday, but he needs to step it up in this series. On the flip side, for Denver, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was on that Lakers team a few years ago when they won the title. Also, Bruce Brown. What is he going to do for the Denver Nuggets coming out of the bench? He's had some nice moments during this playoff run for the Denver Nuggets. So it's going to come down to assist, team defense, and who's going to get the most out of their bench in terms of point production. Those are the 3 factors I'm looking at heading to this Western Conference Finals series.
Yeah, I think Lonnie Walker could probably have a big series. I know.
He did score 13 points on Friday too.
So he might be a factor. Jared Vanderbilt might be a factor too. I mean, like you said with Bruce Brown for the Nuggets. I mean, he could probably be a factor. Like I said, it's gonna be about the bench production. I think that's gonna be the key. I mean, Joe is gonna get his. AD is gonna get his. LeBron and Murray. Because remember, I think Murray scored like 45 during one of those games in the bubble. So. He has the capability of doing that. So, like I said, it should be a fun series nonetheless. I mean, I think this is going to go 7. I know some people have already kind of said that, Lakers 6 or 7. I think this is going to go 6 or 7 now. Can I tell you who's going to win? I'm not going to tell you just now because I'm not sure myself. So, as far as the Celtics, Heat, I think I'll have Heat in 7 just because I think they've got because Tatum can get hot and cold at times. So, I'm a little worried that if it gets cold again, he may not be able to heat back up. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But again, we'll see. Like I said, I'm not gonna make any proclamations, but these should look. If you're the NBA, you gotta be feeling pretty good. These Final Four teams in your conference finals.
I'm picking Denver in 6, even though I am cheering for the Lakers. I'm picking Denver in 6, and for the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm going with Boston in 7. I know Jimmy Butler had a couple bad shots last year down the stretch in Game 7, and even though he did help Miami win Game 6 on the road last year, he ran out of gas in Miami in Game 7 last year. It's going to be a tough, close series, but I think Boston will carry it out, and it's going to be a full 7-game series. But like you said, Lakeena, Jason Tatum has had his moments where he hasn't shot the ball well. They got away with it, but if it reappears again and it stays, Miami's going to take advantage of it because of the way their team is built.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I think these two series go either way, especially since we got the bubble series revisited. So we'll see what happens. As the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown with you now. Some coaching news here, and another coach has joined the growing list of them that are being let go, and the latest to join that list was indeed Monty Williams from Phoenix. The news came out on Saturday, and I kind of say I'm a little surprised by this news because I feel like he wasn't in a good spot. I mean, they got rid of all his depth, to get KD, and they didn't really do anything with it. So that kind of sort of surprised me on this. And considering some of the coaching vacancies and all the coaches that are on the market right now, it's going to be interesting to see who goes where, and it's going to be also going to be very interesting, which teams can kind of fit those coaches. I know some people I've seen some Bulls fans say, well, Darren, why did they resign Billy Donovan to that extension so quietly? If people want, I want Nick Nurse, or I want Monty Williams, and well, what do you think, Sid? Were you surprised about Monty Williams being fired?
I wasn't surprised that he was fired because he was at a no-win situation, especially at what happened in last year's playoffs against the Dallas Mavericks. Completely not showing up in Game 7. Of course, him and DeAndre Ayton has had issues, which stemming back to that series last year. Remember, Phoenix almost let DeAndre Ayton go, which I probably regret now since they matched that offer from the Indiana Pacers. But now that you have new ownership with Matt Ishbia with the Phoenix Suns, new people want their own people running things. So I'm not surprised from that aspect. I did watch not all of it, but some of that NBA on ESPN pregame show yesterday with Stephen A, aka Screaming A Smith. I thought he brought up an interesting point. He said, not to belabor the point, but he said that DeAndre Ayton helped get Monty Williams fired. I kind of agree with him. Was DeAndre Ayton the only factor? No. But like I just mentioned, Ayton didn't show up in last year's playoffs. He was a disappearing act throughout most of the year. He was a disappearing act in this series against Denver. And like you said, Phoenix should try to trade, but who's going to want him with his salary at this point?
That contract, yeah. I mean, and I know Matt Ishbia, of course, he won a national championship at Michigan State with Tom Izzo, with Mateen Cleaves and Mo Pete, remember the Flintstones, Sid. So, yeah, so he's been around the game. Yeah, you remember that back in 2000. Yeah, he's been around the game a minute. And, I mean, we should see what he brings to the table, especially kind of I'm sure he probably wants to bring on his own coaching and whatnot. But yeah, I don't think Monty Williams is going to be out of a job for long, even if he does end up just getting a assistant coaching job. But like I said, it'll be just see what he does, because I feel like you're kind of in a bad spot, especially are they going to rebuild? Are they going to rip everything apart? Because CP3's future is in question. So is KD. So you don't know what you're gonna get. If you do get being the head coach at the Suns, are you going to be anything? Is there going to be enough for you to play around with? So that's going to be interesting too. What happens there? And I know Nick Nurse's name is being floated around as perhaps maybe the Suns. Maybe I know the Bucks is another name. Another team has been floating around for him. I know Bucks fans want Monty Williams. That's another Diddy there. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, because I feel like there's a lot of places where a lot of these guys can go. I know you got Kenny Atkinson, his name. He's been out of the game for a little bit. Maybe he might be going as one of these coaches. Ime Udoka is another, of course. You got to think his name's gonna be floated around as well. So what do you think?
Here's name that came out over the weekend. Mark Jackson, of course, he's doing TV work for ESPN. He was interviewed by the Milwaukee Bucks over the weekend, so his name is being thrown in the mix too now. Will he actually get that coaching job that he's so desired over the last decade or so? I don't know, but we'll see what happens with that. Now back to Nick Nurse. He could also be a candidate in Philadelphia should they let Doc Rivers go in the next coming days or so. So Nick Nurse won't along with Monty Williams. Both of them won't be out of a job for long. But I can see Nick Nurse working in Milwaukee, if not definitely Phoenix. But so here's the thing, especially with Phoenix, how are you going to build that depth on the bench? Because you saw what happened. They didn't have much, like you said, after they traded for Kevin Durant at the trade deadline. So, and that's what cost them for this series against Denver. So Nick Nurse, I think he could fit with just about any team. I saw our guy Brandon Schultz in the comments said, could it be the Houston Rockets next head coach? No, I think that, I'm not saying they couldn't use him, but Houston's still rebuilding. So, but I think that Phoenix, Milwaukee, and a distant third Philadelphia, should Doc Rivers be let go, they'll be the top three teams that Nick Nurse should be candidates for those teams.
I think if you're Nick Nurse, you want to go someplace where you can win another championship, and Houston's not there yet. I know there are rumors that maybe James Harden might want to go back to Houston. That's more of a money grab, so I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, yeah, I think Nurse will have his picks. I think whether like the teams you mentioned. So the Bucks, I think. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Budenholzer ends up going to maybe Phoenix, because I think he kind of had a fit set. But like we've been saying, I know Becky Hammond's name's been floating around. Terry Stotts, remember the former coach from Portland, David Yeager. I mean, look, Frank Vogel. I mean, look, there are a lot of names that are being floated around for some of these jobs. I mean, will there be more jobs available? We'll have to wait and see after the season, perhaps. But it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting, nonetheless. I mean, the coaching carousel continues. This is because they can't really hire anybody until after the finals, so it's gonna be a while before we find out anything about some of these jobs. So it'll be interesting though, but I'm looking forward to see like who will fit where, who'll be a good fit. So I'm intrigued by some of these.
So so am I. But like you said, these coaches that we just mentioned with Monty Williams and Nick Nurse heading the top of the list, they shouldn't be out of a job for long. And like I said, Kenny Atkinson, current Warriors assistant, he was the former head coach of the Brooklyn Nets before they booted him when KD and Kyrie came to town. He should get another chance, but I'm still worried about this Mark Jackson situation, Lakeena. Does he really have a realistic shot at getting a head coaching job again, or is this just a courtesy interview?
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see where these coaches go. Like you said, I mean, you got to think the top two jobs. You got to think the Bucks, the Raptors, the Suns, and who else? Well, I'll put Philly there, especially in case Doc does get the boot. Yeah, you got to in that. Well, however order you want to put them on. I think that's going to be the kind of the key here. But yeah, I think. Look, we may not have a lot of coaches. Houston, I know Houston, but I'm putting them at the bottom because, like I said, they're not ready to win.
Detroit at the bottom.
Yeah, Detroit, too. So yeah, they're So I'm not worried about those two teams right now. So yeah, the four teams I mentioned, yeah, you got to think those teams are probably like, if they make a couple of changes, they could probably definitely be right there contending. But we'll see. I mean, it should be interesting.
Yep. Real quickly, Keenan, we won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but since we have a minute left before we had to close up shop for hour number 1, John Morant, star of the Memphis Grizzlies, he was suspended for 8 games for being caught holding a gun on the Instagram Live. He did something stupid again, the same damn thing over the weekend. Of course, the video's been taken down. And now that the Memphis Grizzlies says he's been suspended from all team activities, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has a problem on his hands. And I heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say yesterday on the pregame show. I heard and read everybody's thoughts yesterday. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has to get this right, Lakeena. He's going to have a double-digit game suspension to start off next season for 23-24. And he needs to realize that the people that he has around him are not good. Even some family members are not good for you, Ja, and other young athletes coming up. They can add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And number 3, Ja has to realize, I know he's a smart young man, but he has to realize that he has to take responsibility for his own actions. As soon as you get the bag, as the kids would say, then you want to want to act a fool, act who you is in the so-called fantasy? Who are you trying to prove that you're quote unquote tough too? You don't have to do that. You have the bag. Your future is secure financially. You don't have to act or do anything stupid to prove anything to anybody. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. You don't have to prove anything to anybody except for these three people: you, yourself, and you. Anybody? No, you don't have to prove anything to anybody else but yourself. That is it. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and well, it's one of those things where, like I said, we're up against it, but I feel like this is sort of a thing where it's the people around him. There's nobody around him that says no, like no, Ja, don't do this. You're already on thin ice with the league. You don't want to do this and this and this. So unfortunately, you get into it with a high school kid. I heard about what happened with that young high school player in Memphis. So. Or apparently, I guess he hit him with the ball, and I guess he pulled a gun on him or whatever. But it's just like he needs to take a step back. I would be surprised. Look, I would be surprised if I'm sure the press going to go beyond Silver to perhaps maybe give him a half a season suspension and say, look, I'm not going to suspend you the whole year, but you need to get yourself together because you're making your team look bad, you're making yourself look bad, and you're making us look bad. It's an image thing too with the league. So you have to. I'm sure they gotta. I'm sure if you're Silver, channel, the ghost of David Stern, if you will, God continue to rest his soul. But you may have to channel that ghost and say, hey, you know what? I may have to put my foot down here, and you may have to look, get your crap together. That's all I gotta say. And perhaps if you gotta get rid of some people, get out of your circle, and maybe even some case of family members. Look, you got a young daughter to think about now, so. And yeah, not just your career, your life, but your career too. Your livelihood's at stake, so you better get this. So if you're Adam Silver, you better try to get this right. And the most important thing is that John has to get it right too.
Yep, agreed. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. We'll get into baseball. Both the Cubs and the Sox lose their series over the weekend. We'll get into the rest of what happened around Major League Baseball. So teams are taking off. Some teams are stuck in neutral. We have a former NFL player that's getting into the broadcasting world, and we'll have a whole lot more sports media news, and plus the return of Old School TV Monday. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sid the Kid. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition of Second City Sports.
Yeah, there are technical difficulties.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid the Kid, which is me. That's Lakeena McGee, which is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Apologies for technical difficulties from a few minutes ago. You follow Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena McGee on the IG.
We have less than an hour left for this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you want to hit us up in the comments section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page, or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. So let's go to the diamond for hour 2 to kick off hour 2. Not a good showing for our baseball teams. We'll start with your White Sox, Sid, as our buddy Brandon here. What's up, Brandon? Expertly, eloquently mentioned the Astros won 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. They actually had a couple of chances to actually win that series, I should say, and unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and so that. Especially yesterday's game, with a little bit misty out there, Mother's Day and such. But unfortunately, the Sox had a early 1-0 lead. Unfortunately, they weren't able to, to hang on, as the Astros were able to pull it out 4-3. Like I said, losing 2 out of 3 to the Astros and such. I mean, Yainer Diaz. Alvarez has been just a Sox killer for the Astros for them, and unfortunately just not a good showing by the White Sox. The Sox are now 14-28 as we're recording this, and look, I'm just at the point where I'm just end the season now, please. I'm begging this season to be over with already, because I feel like the White Sox, they're back to the bad habits, leaving guys on base, errors. I know some people try to start something with what Tim Anderson said to Jose Abreu during that whole early on in that game yesterday. But
he hates the pitch clock. That's what he said. Move on.
Well, yeah, who knows? But yeah. I mean, it's just so silly that people try to make that into something bigger than when it wasn't. But but even still, I mean, look, this Sox team, they face the Guardians tomorrow, and I just feel like I'm kind of over the Sox team at this point. You got 14 wins. It's just I can't. I don't know what else to say about this White Sox team. That I can't start swearing. So you go ahead and comment. I know you're going to be saying some swear words too.
You may get your wish, but I'm not going to say it's still a long way to go. But this team is starting to run out of patience with a whole lot of folks saying may start to run out of time. But we still have a whole month of May to go. We'll see what happens. But as far as this series was concerned, Luis Robert has been hot so far. He hit a home run in each of the 3 games of the series. Overall, over the last week, he's averaging .422 with 6 home runs and 4 RBI. Can he keep this up? I don't think so as far as the batting average, but excuse me.
Oh, as
I know. yeah. Talk about him in a positive way. Will get you choked up. Good grief. But anywho, Luis Robert has been a stand-up guy in terms of his production at the plate ever since what happened a couple of weeks ago against Tampa Bay when he refused to run out a ground ball. He's really turned his season around. And Duvall, he didn't get a hit in this series. He's been doing very well. In the replacement for Jose Abreu. Yes, Sox fans gave Jose Abreu all the accolades in the cheering in the world over the weekend, and rightfully so. He still has not had not one home run yet this year, and that's concerning if you're Astros fans. But Hunter Brown yesterday made his debut pitching against the Sox. Had pitched 5 2/3 innings, struck out 8, which was very good, but the thing that concerned me about, like you said, Lakeena, the Sox can get them on, but they just cannot get them across home plate. And after the terrible first inning from Lucas Giolito, he finally settled in, but the White Sox offense just couldn't capitalize. I thought that at times, especially when Dusty Baker went to the bullpen yesterday, they were asking the Sox to take the game, and the Sox just couldn't do it. Now, the day before on Saturday night when Dylan Cease was pitching, Dylan Cease didn't have a great start in terms of the numbers, but he definitely kept the Sox in the game, and the Sox got some timely hits, and they scored a couple of extra runs late to beat the Astros for only winning that series last Saturday night. But the Sox are playing a little bit better, but in spots, Lakeena. But the thing about it is, can you get on a winning streak? Can you start taking series? And what they did in Kansas City last week was terrible, but we went through that last week, so we won't go through it here. But they had a chance to actually win the season series from the Astros yesterday. They were right there. They just couldn't get it done. Now, they have a chance, like you said, tomorrow to rebound against a Cleveland Guardians team, which they've been kind of up and down so far to start the year. And so you have Lance Lynn going tomorrow, Mike Clevenger on Wednesday, and then Michael Kopech on Thursday, who's been pitching very well. Even though the Sox lost last Friday in the series over against Houston, Kopech did pitch okay. It's just that their bullpen, which actually has been pitching decent for a few games here and there against the Astros, but the starting pitching they'll definitely have to pick up again. Lance Lynn, I about had it with him. I don't know. We've seen he's this year's Dallas Keuchel. I don't think the Sox are going to cut him right now. No, because they pay him too much money. But maybe you've seen the last moments from him, and that's the case. That's sad if you're a White Sox fan. But there are some encouraging signs, Lakeena. You still have the rest of this month to go to stockpile some wins. I don't think it's out of the question for them to get to 500 by the end of June or the beginning of July, but they got to start right now. And you starting to see it in spots. So they just got to be consistent. Get a winning streak going. Start winning some of these series, especially against lesser teams. But the way they've been playing outside the beginning of this month, it's like it's a daunting task. Like you see other teams around the league that they can do it. They do it, but if you're a Chicago team, you ask them to do it, they can't do it for whatever reason.
Well, look, like I said before, I mean, I'm at this point now of the Sox season where I'm just like, let's just end the season now. Like, could they win 10 or 12 in a row and get back, over 500? Sure, but they haven't proven it to me yet. So, it is what it is with them. Now, going to the Cubs for a second, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Twins, including not a very good one. If you're Marcus Stroman, you want to kind of just put this here, game and just rip it off and just put 6 earned runs. 16-3 was the final there in that the rubber match there. Unfortunately, they also get their butts kicked on Saturday 11-1. So that's this is one of those series where you got to think, sorry, Sox fans, to get still the Cubs tried and whatnot. Just couldn't get it together with the pitching wise and stuff like that. Joey Gallo hit a massive 3-run home run in that Saturday game. I think he had a couple of RBIs in that Sunday game yesterday as well. Now they did salvage one game, 6-2, in that Friday matchup. That was they on Apple TV of all places.
Shout out to our friend of the show, Russ Dorsey. He was doing field reporting for the game on Friday.
Yes, did a great job as usual. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, look, they're 19-21. The Cubs are. They start their series with the Astros. In Houston. They're not here. They're in Houston, starting tonight. But yeah, like I said, I mean, some of the little spots of hitting and such, you're seeing that. Unfortunately, the pitching hasn't been very good either the last weeks. But
Mhm.
I'm not, worried. I'm not like freaking out just yet. I mean, Kyle Hitter should be back in a couple of weeks. I know Seiya Suzuki is, starting to get going, but he's been striking out at inopportune times. Eric Hosmer, I know how a lot of people feel about him. He should be sent down now. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Bellinger has kind of slowed down a little bit. So is Swanson, but I look, consider where the Cubs are. Look, like I said, that division, that NL Central is there for the taking. So I'm not worried about the Cubs just yet. But I think if you want to stay in the distance of that NL Central, you need to start winning the series at the very least. You're 4 games out right now, which is not a big margin. So you got to get together with the pitching, both the starting pitching and the relief pitching. The relief actually been hasn't been too bad. It's been really, but the starting pitch has been
Mhm.
pretty inconsistent the last couple of weeks, and the hitting too. I mean, we thought this would be a slowdown for them,
Mhm.
in this month, but you hope that they can get it going and whatnot. Hap needs. I know Horner's on the IL, so that's not helping either. He kind of makes the offense go too. It's good to have Matt Burns and Christopher Morel back, but they need help in that department too. So I'm not worried about the Cubs yet, but I'm thinking that okay, let's get something going here. Let's get back into the groove again.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that starting pitching got exposed over the weekend against Minnesota. They took advantage of that, and like I said, it's just a series that you need to just throw out the window if you're the Cubs and if you're a Cubs fan. But I like the Cubs starting rotation this week against Houston. Of course, tonight you have James Italian, one of the big acquisitions for the all season. He's going tonight against I believe is Valdez. If you correct me if I'm wrong, Lakeena,
I'll get the
but
schedule up. Hold on.
Justin Steele will pitch for the Cubs tomorrow, and then Drew Smiley on Wednesday to wrap up that 3-game series. So the Houston Astros are throwing a couple of their best pitchers out there too. I know you have Christian Javier. I believe he's going in that second game, and J.P. Francis will be pitching that third game for Houston. So the Cubs had the pitching matchups slightly in their favor. So will they get swept by Houston? No. You saw how Houston played here in Chicago over the weekend. They easily could have lost 2 out of 3, even though they won 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. The Cubs can sneak a series win out of there. Things will be better, but they have the starting pitching in their favor, and then I think they should help against the Astros, even though they're without Jose Altuve. I know he started a rehab assignment over the weekend, but I think the Cubs with their starting pitching alone, they can sneak a game or 2 out of there.
Yeah, you're all right. Valdez will be pitching that against Italian, so
Okay.
I think the Cubs could get a chance for maybe win one, maybe 2 of those games. I think they can kind of
Mhm.
get on track now. What caught your attention this weekend in baseball?
Speaking of catching the attention, the Los Angeles Dodgers, Lakeena, we talked about them getting out to a slow start last month. It looks like they caught fire the last 2 weekend series against the San Diego Padres. They won 5 out of 6, and now they sit in the first place in the NL West. By default, the Arizona Diamondbacks are in second place. San Diego's right behind in third place. So the Dodgers look like they're catching fire. Baltimore is catching fire again. They're staying high. They took 2 out of 3 from the Pittsburgh Pirates over the weekend. The Toronto Blue Jays, they won their series over the Braves at home over the weekend too. Braves just not coming through in the clutch down the stretch. I don't think you're too worried if you're a Braves fan, but Toronto got the best of them. Your Seattle Mariners won a series on the road this weekend at Detroit. They lost the series finale yesterday, but you like how they're getting back in the race. They're 20-20 right now, right in the thick of the AL West race. And the Milwaukee Brewers, they sweep away the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, that I saw that too. You guys think that they're starting to kind of get going as well. I want to go back to Baltimore for a second. Cedric Mullins hit for the cycle in that first game against the Pirates, and he's been sort of like the guy that's kind of helped help Baltimore kind of get where they're at right now. So he might be a guy that I'm not going to say he's going to win AL MVP. I'm not saying that, folks, but he's been. I think he's like right near the top, like in the top 5. I think in like runs batted in. I think so. I'm wondering, like, could he perhaps maybe be a guy that could probably win be up there for AL MVP. He's one of the reasons why they're where they are right now, top of the Orioles. So could be a name that that's being floated around. To Josh Naylor, your favorite from the Guardians.
Don't you say that, young lady.
He had to go ahead.
People would like him on the Sox, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that'd be nice winning that. But he had to have a couple of go ahead home runs for the Guardians in their series. So he, like I said, Naylor's been pretty solid too, and the Guardians are right there right behind the Twins. Winning. They won 2 out of 3 against the Angels, so had 2 go ahead home runs both tomorrow in that last night and in Saturday night's game against the Angels. So I know our buddy Chris isn't very happy. Our girl Chrissy Medic I don't think he'll be happy. He was happy with that, but if you're the Guardians, you're in a good spot there. What else kind of caught my attention? Oh, Chris Sale, our buddy Chris Sale. He had 8 let me see. Yeah, he had his longest start since 2019. I'm talking about Chris Sale in that series against the Cardinals on Saturday, and he pitched 8 innings. That's the most innings he has pitched since his Tommy John surgery. That was like 1,374 days ago. Well, 75 now, but since the surgery and then the start here on Saturday, and just a great. And I know for confidence purposes, I think that really it could help a guy's confidence. I know Boston's in last place right now, but you really can't help but feel for him, and I'm hoping that he can kind of get it going. I know they lost that game, unfortunately. I'm talking about the Red Sox against the Cardinals. They got swept by the Cardinals, actually losing that match 9-1 yesterday in Sunday Night Baseball. But look, if you're Chris Sale, you got to be feeling pretty good. You're up there in age, but the fact that you can have a start like this, despite everything that's happening, you got to feel good for him.
And speaking of Chris Sale, before we get back to the weekend action, I saw a story yesterday. Of course, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers around the world. Yes. Chris Sale hosted a group of breast cancer survivors from the Susan Komen Foundation yesterday. Had them in a suite, but before the game, he had them on those group of young women down on the field for batting practice, and they had a chance to take pictures with them, talk to the rest of the players on the Boston Red Sox staff. I thought it was an awesome moment. First of all, for those young women to survive breast cancer, kudos to 2 thumbs up for both of us here at Second City Sports and Sports on Chicago. But number 2, Chris Sale, giving those young women opportunity to experience what it's like being on the field and meeting the players. And because most average fans won't, unless you're a reporter or analyst, most average fans won't get a chance to step on the field to talk to the players up close. You just sit in the stands. But shout out to Chris Sale for doing that yesterday for Mother's Day and for those breast cancer survivors.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment. I saw a little bit of that. That was a really nice moment. I know I think his mother's a breast cancer survivor, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really near and dear to his heart. So kudos to him and such. And had a nice, even though unfortunately the Red Sox, like I said, the Red Sox got swept by the Cardinals. That was a really nice moment there before that rubber match yesterday. Now Zach Greinke, congrats to him as well. He struck out his 1,000th different batter in his career. He's actually the 5th player to do that. He joins guys like Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Greg Maddux, and Roger Clemens. Not a bad list to join there if you're Greinke. So he did that on Saturday for the Royals. And look, 39 years old. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I think we thought that's how when we first saw him was with the Royals. Of course, he gave the White Sox some fits too back in the day. But like a nice showing by them, and he joins a pretty exclusive list for striking out his 1,000th career different batter.
Yep. The Texas Rangers took care of Oakland this weekend. Of course, the New York Yankees take 2 out of 3 for the Tampa Bay Rays.
They needed
of course, Aaron Judge is back from the injury list. I know Anthony Rizzo had a couple of big hits for the Yankees in that series. So it looks like the offense is starting to come around for the Bronx Bombers, but they need to get healthy, especially with their starting pitcher who's going to help out Garrett Cole. And will Carlos Rodon ever pitch for the Yankees after signing that big contract this offseason? Just asking.
We'll see. Of course, Toronto, they swept the Braves over the weekend. So, they're kind of starting to get it going a little bit too. Toronto is. And, if you're the Yankees, you got to be feeling pretty good getting, 2 out of 3 against the Rays. You really needed that, especially. So that was a good boost for them, especially with Aaron Judge back even better. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, despite losing 4 in a row, I mean, the Phillies, they got it going a little bit. I mean, I know they lost the rubber match against the Rockies. I know they hated getting that, of course, but they did win 2 out of 3, so that's the important thing. I know Bryce Harper got ejected from that game on yesterday, so on Sunday. So yeah, but still, they win 2 out of 3 nonetheless. They got the Giants starting tonight. We'll get to the schedule in a second, but yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if you're the Phillies, you gotta be feeling pretty good. Where you're at right now. You've won 5 of your last 6, so you gotta be feeling pretty good. You're right there in the thick of it in the NL East, I should say. So right by the Braves. So yeah, I mean, if you're especially the Bryce Harper, I know with the ejection aside, I think he's starting to kind of get it going too. So that's yeah. So yeah, so if you're the Phillies, you gotta be good where you are. The Mets, not so much. I mean,
yes. Speaking of the Mets, they won 2 out of 3 in our nation's capital against the Washington Nationals. They had a makeup game yesterday, which they lost, but they won the nightcap. I know they wrap up their 4-game series later on today. But for the Mets, injuries are still a big issue with that team. The lack of power within the last half of that lineup is still an issue. Their bullpen is still an issue, and like I said, their starting rotation, the health is an issue too. So, will they turn this around? I know they want to have the Mets have one of the highest payrolls in baseball, but a few guys, especially Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Daniel Vogelbach, even though I don't know if you saw that commercial from him, Lakeena, before the start of the season, talking about stealing the base, but those guys need to step up to the Mets want to get back in this NL East race.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets. I mean, you got to think the injuries are bothering him. Edwin Diaz still being out. He might be gone till like maybe August. I read so. That may be a big issue for them. And look, I know Scherzer, guys win this first game back from the suspension, so you gotta think that you gotta think that feeling pretty good about that. Maybe he can kind of get going too, stuff aside. But yeah, like I said, I mean the Mets are interesting. Like that's an interesting division at that NL East. So I'm wondering, could they perhaps somebody make a big trade as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline? We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, look, I mean the standings right now. No one's really pulling away from many divisions, so you gotta think that maybe everybody still has a shot. I know the Diamondbacks are kind of hanging on by a thread. I mean, you gotta think that they're starting. I know they think they swept the Giants, 3 out of 4 from the Giants, I should say, but yeah, they're starting to kind of fall back to earth a little bit. So again, we'll see, but yeah, I mean. We'll get back to this at the end of the month. We'll see where everybody is at this point.
And also, too, the Miami Marlins, they had a tough weekend, losing 2 out of 3 to the Cincinnati Reds. I'm not going to sit here and say that you should take the Cincinnati Reds seriously, but they're playing a little bit better than what people expect.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, we'll revisit all this in later on, next month and later on this month, and we'll see if they can. Some of this stuff changed, but some of this stuff might change. We'll see. Now going into the scheduling, as Sid said, the Mets and the Nationals are wrapping up their 4-game series. My computer went blank for a second. Here we go. Angels and the Orioles. That should be a fun one. The Yankees, the Yankees feel a little more confident after you get 2 out of 3 from the Rays. They face my Toronto Blue Jays. The first game of that series will be on ESPN Plus. Seattle and
Go ahead.
No. Seattle and Boston, Milwaukee and St. Louis. Considering where both these teams are right now, I don't think anybody thought that they'd be going in different directions. Atlanta and Texas, and of course the Cubs and Houston. They start their series.
The series starting tonight, Cincinnati at Colorado, Arizona at Oakland. If you're Arizona, you should win this series without a problem. Kansas City will start their series at San Diego tonight in another interleague series. Philadelphia will visit San Francisco to take on the Giants. And the Minnesota Twins will travel to La La Land to take on the LA Dodgers. Of the series that are starting tomorrow for Tuesday, of course, Cleveland at Chicago against the White Sox. You have Pittsburgh at Detroit. You have Washington at Miami, Seattle at Boston, Tampa Bay staying in New York, but this time playing the New York Mets. And that's your those are the series that are starting tomorrow, and there's your series schedule for this upcoming week.
And don't forget the game 2 of that Cubs-Astros series. Game 2 of that will be on TBS at 7:10. That's their Tuesday game of the week.
Yep. And that's your schedule for Major League Baseball for today and tomorrow, Wednesday and early Thursday. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. We have one more break coming up. We have to discuss a former NFL quarterback joining the broadcast team. We're going to have some other fun stuff as well. Lakeena has some thoughts about the Stanley Cup Playoffs. I do too after what I saw last night. And we're going to have the return of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. You're listening to Second City Sports live in the living color of the Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks? They can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. This is our last break of the show for today. So we're going to make this a good one as we always do. I'm Sid the Kid, which is me. That's Lakeena McGee, which is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
As I'm fading out here, you can follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena McGee on the IG.
You want to get those last minute comments or questions into us or in our comment section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. All right, Lakeena, as we always do, let's do that hockey and let's go backwards as usual. Last night, these the first of the two second round playoff series in the Western Conference was completed last night. The Vegas Golden Knights defeated the Edmonton Oilers by the score of 5-2 to take. So the Vegas Golden Knights, for the fourth time, I can't believe it, the fourth time in their 6-year history of the franchise, they're going back to the Western Conference Finals. The first appearance in 2 years. Of course, Vegas wins that series in 6. Of course, there's another season of unfulfilled expectations for the Edmonton Oilers. Lakeena, I don't want to say feel sorry, but your heart goes out to Connor McDavid and Leo Draisaitl and some of those young stars for Edmonton. I still believe they have a bright future, but they better get it together in the next couple of years, or else it's going to get ugly. But congratulations again to the Vegas Golden Knights. Jack Eichel, the former Buffalo Sabre, of course, he was acquired at the trade deadline for the Vegas Golden Knights. He was the MVP, in my opinion, in this series. He had 9 total points for the Golden Knights in this series. So they await the winner of the Dallas and Seattle series. Of course, Seattle won Game 6 the other night to force a Game 7. But Lakeena, the Vegas Golden Knights last year, they barely missed the playoffs. They're back in it again this year, but this time they're back in the Stanley Cup Western Conference Finals.
I can't believe this is their 4th trip to the Western Conference Final, and they've only been around not even barely a decade. This is their 4th trip to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, it's crazy now. I realized that Jack Eichel is not a big fan of snakes. I learned that from an old video from a few years ago. when he and Evander Kane were playing together, they did this whole thing with Biz. We'll get to that. That's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I mean, he's been a really spot on. He's been kind of like the leader for that team since he got there. And you look at Riley Smith, had that the opener to kind of open the floodgates for them. This is a goal. It's just not even 30 seconds in. I was rating it because we had to watch the game on ESPN2. Remember, because the Cardinals Red Sox game went over, and we had to wait till 9:30 for that game to start. So that's a whole different conversation. But Jonathan Marchessault had a hat trick. Especially he scored 3 goals in that second period. They basically just put the game away for the Oilers, for the Knights, I should say. And look, they've been very solid. And look, I don't know. I mean, we'll get to there will be opponents tonight because they're in a Game 7 tonight. But I mean, I think the Knights are they're kind of a streaky team. But they're good. They're real good. But their losses, they can be very bad. And we saw that that second game against the Oilers. But I'm feeling. If you're the Knights, you gotta be feeling pretty good where you're at right now. I mean, you kind of been like the one standing because you had to worry. People were thinking that maybe we get a Vegas, Boston, Stanley Cup. That's not happening, unfortunately. So, but yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Knights, you gotta be feeling pretty good where you're at right now.
Yeah, speaking of Vegas and Boston, Bruce Cassidy, who was let go by Boston last year, and now he's coaching in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, Boston, you're going to watch him coach another team while you sitting at home spewing over a disappointing season. I thought that was kind of ironic there. But also, too, let's give Aiden Hill, the starting goaltender for the Golden Knights, a 2 thumbs up. 38 saves last night. That Edmonton, even though they led 2-1 after the first period, they trailed by 2 rather. Going into the third period, of course, Edmonton next expected they came in a flurry with a flurry of shots, but Aiden Hill stood on his head for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he deserves a lot of credit as well. As we say all the time, Lakeena, especially in hockey at this time of year, everything's going to be played tightly. Goals are going to come at a premium. It's all about defense and great goaltending. As I said, Lakeena, I think we said this for this series as well. Someone was going to we all thought it was going to be a high scoring affair in this series. It kind of turned out that way, but some goaltender was going to have to steal a game. And I think Aiden Hill did that last night, especially from the second period on. Especially in that third period, he really stood on his head. Edmonton did not score.
Yeah, absolutely. 38 saves for him, and look, he's been one of the three stars of that game, according with Marchessault. And I look, Bruce Cassidy. I think I said, we talked about him, and it feels really good. I know you got to be feeling pretty upbeat now with the way he got let go over in Boston, but. But look, I think the Knights could be a team to be reckoned with. I mean, could they? Again, depends on who they play. We'll get to that in a second. But I think the Knights are definitely that team. They've been one of the top teams all season. And look, there's trying. We've shown this is their fourth trip to the Western Conference Finals, so they're proving that they're not a one-trick pony. So this is a legit team, and they've got guys there. We talked about Eichel, we talked about Masterson, we talked about Hill. The young goalie standing on his head.
Mm-hmm.
So look, those are the three things that can help you win a Stanley Cup. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
All right, tonight's before we get to tonight's Game 7, we'll go through the rest of the results from over the weekend. Of course, we mentioned the Seattle Kraken. They won Game 6 last Saturday by the score of 6-3 over the Dallas Stars to force a Game 7. We'll give you our preview of that tonight's Game 7 coming up. Well, going back to last Friday, the Panthers, the Florida Panthers, they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs by the score of 3-2 in overtime last Friday to take this series in 5. Of course, Toronto coming off a 7-game series, which they finally got past the first round for the first time in 19 years. They didn't have any energy left. Those Florida Panthers are starting to come along. You have goalie Sergei Grabowski, who's been, playing on his head. Of course, Toronto, their superstars were missing throughout this series. And it started to show that, of course, Sergei Grabowski had 50 saves in that Game 5 clinching win on Friday. Of course, Mike Bradley, a defensive of Toronto, had one of the 2 goals for the Maple Leafs. And Cousins for Florida had 1 goal as well, which was the game winner in overtime on Friday. The game winner in overtime last Friday. So congratulations to the Florida Panthers. They're going to the Stanley Cup's Eastern Conference Finals, in which they'll meet up with Lakeena's Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah. I want to get to. Have you talked about Game 7? I'm sorry, I was taking a phone call there. But have you talked about Game 7 between the Kraken and the Stars? Or
no,
not yet?
We'll talk about it now.
Okay. No. I want to finish this Eastern Conference series. That's going to be starting. Look, you guys, you know how I feel about Carolina. I think Carolina is one of those teams where, like I said, they play great. Again, they don't have a lot of names on that squad, but those guys can play. The guys, the no-name guys as they're calling them, and. Look, I think this could be a very interesting. Series. I think between the Panthers and the Hurricanes. I know these are not. This is not the matchup that the NHL wanted, but it's gonna be interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because remember you got the Panthers and the Heat, playing around the same time. So there are gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be picking to see which game they're gonna be watching. So we'll get to that in a second, but. I mean, I think the key for me, like I said, none of this is official until once the Game 7 of between the Kraken and the Stars. Once that's played, they won't have a schedule just yet. But going into the Hurricanes and the Panther series, I mean, look, it's all about the youth, and I think again for me, I think the key is going to be. I don't know how you feel about this, Sid, but I think if setting the tone, we know that the Hurricanes are fast. They're they can kind of they want to jump on you right away and score against you right away and such. But look, the Panthers, they're more of a finesse team, and so we saw you're given a hole, they can come right at you. So again, it's really going to depend on which team can kind of set their tone, which team can play, try to adapt their style early on. I think that's going to be the key here.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to come down to goaltending as well because, like you said, Lakeena, Carolina, they're not really a high-scoring team. Like you said, they can't put goals on the board in a hurry, but they're not a team that's going to run up and down the ice all night. Florida can do that, but they have a goaltender, Sergei Grabowski, who's been there before. Yep. They can stand on his head. I think as a surprise, I think Florida has a slight edge there in the goaltending department, but I expect this to be a drawn-out 6 or 7 game series.
Which I think that could help with the interest. I feel like because I know, like I said, I think a lot of these guys will have to, kind of have to, sort of adapt and such. Like I said, I mean, this wasn't the matchup I think that they originally wanted, but look, these two have played before in the playoffs, so it'll be interesting to see what. Like I said, I think setting the tone early. I think that's going to be the key here. And look, we've seen various guys, Sebastian Aho and Marnook for the Hurricanes. They of course got Matt Tkachuk, who we saw his dad do this a few times back in the day.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Oh my God, yes. But yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely like one of those those times where you got to think, again, send the tone early. I'm sure the Hurricanes like to play fast early on and get it going, right off the bat. And the Panthers like to kind of like slow it down a little bit, not really a finesse, but sort of like, got to get it going here and whatnot. So I think this is going to be a very high scoring series. I know Bobrovsky has been great for the Panthers, but look, Frederick Anderson for the Hurricanes hasn't been no slouch either. So,
True.
I think, like I said, send the tone early. I think that's going to be the real key. And I know Anderson realized that he's going to have to, he's really going to have to get it going here in this series because this could get out of hand really quick. And this could be one of those things where we could see like maybe a 6-5 or a 8-7 type of, that's just how these teams are. So we'll see.
But I think a goalie has to steal a game or two in this series. Whoever does that, I think that the better team. I think that team will win. Yours truly is going to pick the Florida Panthers over your Hurricanes. Looking, I have Florida in 7.
Which I wouldn't hate that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I have Hurricanes in 7. So again, we'll see who's right. We'll see who's right. We'll see who's right. So yeah, it should be fun. Now we can talk about this Kraken Stars Game 7 tonight. And interesting stat here that I found out. Pete DeBoer, I should say, he's 6-0 in Game 7 as the head coach for the Stars. So we've seen him do this a few times with various teams. So you kind of take that as you will. But I think for me, look, it's like I said, send the tone early. Same thing. I mean, we saw the Kraken. We know what they can do. And look, this is not just a second year team. I mean, they have guys that play. We talked about the last couple of weeks. To me, I really think it's like I said. I think the key. I don't know. I mean, you got, of course, Jared McCann for the Kraken, of course, Jason Robertson. Those two guys are probably going to be scoring off. So it's going to be interesting who's going to set the tone early. And I think this could be a goalie matchup too. I think because we see what Martin Jones could do with the Kraken. But I feel like this is going to be another one of those days where Olinger for the Stars could be the key. Olinger for the Stars, it could be the key tonight. I think it's really going to be a goalie. This is going to be a goalie game. I feel like this could be like a 1-0, 2-1, kind of game as Game 7. I feel like.
I think that's it's going to have to be that way, Lakeena, because given the magnitude of the series and given the magnitude of what Dallas didn't do on Saturday night, just coming out flat in. The Kraken took advantage of that, especially on home ice. But I think it's going to be a goalie game tonight, and I think Dallas. I'm trusting Dallas because they're at home. That they'll score about 2 or 3 goals to win. But would it shock me if Seattle won? No, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me at all. But Dallas, I think, still has the overall better teams, especially giving them the edge offensively. But like I said, if it turns out to be a goalie game, that plays right into Seattle's hands.
Right. So. Like I said, setting the tone early, getting it going and such, getting that sort of like the trend setting. So yeah, like I said, like I said, this could go to maybe 1 or 2 overtimes. We don't know. So
or 5.
Oh, good Lord, 5. Jeez, I don't know.
Just like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia back in 2000. I remember that one.
Oh God, I remember that. Oh Jesus, I remember that. Jeez,
stay tuned for Good Morning America.
Yeah, stay tuned. Yeah, that's how. Well, it was on ABC, and I think I heard Gary Thorne did say that. I mean, stay tuned for Good Morning America because I think, the late ABC News, like because at 4 a.m. here. But yeah, that's how I think that game was. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't come to that. But like I said, it could be a 1 or 2 overtime game. Like I said, I'll pick Dallas just because, like I said, Pete DeBoer. I mean, he's good at this game, coaching Game 7. So yeah, it'll be like I said, it should be interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yep. So Game 7 you can watch tonight between the Seattle Kraken and Dallas Stars. That's on ESPN at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Whoever wins that game will face the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL's Western Conference Final starting in a couple of days. The schedule will be out tomorrow. And of course, it will give you all the details on our next show on Friday right here on Second City Sports. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena hanging out with you. Lakeena, before we get to Old School TV Monday, I have a question for you about the NBA. We'll get to that in a bit. But let's talk about a former NFL quarterback that's going to be seen on your television screens coming this fall.
Yeah, veteran QB Matt Ryan, who's been playing for the Indianapolis Colts the last couple of years. This news came out earlier this morning. He signed on with CBS to do a part of their NFL coverage this year. He'll do various appearances on the NFL Today, on the other pregame show that airs on CBS Sports Network and all the other CBS sports platforms. And he actually kind of winked, if you go by his Twitter account, he kind of did the wink, said this is not a retirement post, wink, wink. But you got to wonder that, especially since he wasn't getting a lot of offers during the offseason. The guy, I think this is definitely going to be. I think he's waiting to work there because he and Arthur Blank are going to work on like a contract, a 1-day contract where he gets to sign on and retire as a Falcon, of course. So former MVP in 2016, 4-time Pro Bowl. So he's also going to be we got NFL Monday QB, which airs on Monday on CBS Sports Network on CBS Sports headquarters as well. So I like this move, Sid. I think he's a very smart guy. He has a mass communications degree from Boston College. I saw him do some studio work. I think he's gonna be really good at it. So I think this is a good move by him. And I think he's kind of retiring, although he's waiting for the official announcement now.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a good move for CBS. Matt Ryan, former MVP, he played in the Super Bowl. Even though he was on the wrong side of it, it wasn't all his fault. But he's a very intelligent guy. He'll bring some new perspective and new knowledge to the game. I want to see how him and Boomer Esiason will interact. And Phil Simms too.
That'll be interesting. A younger QB. So I think that's a good. But that's a good thing though. Bringing that young QB perspective. Someone who's fresh out the game. how the game works now. So I think this could be a good interaction, especially with that Monday QB show that airs on CBS Sports Network and also CBS Sports headquarters. So I think that's gonna be interesting. Also, it's gonna be interesting who he gets paired with. Because remember, Greg Gumbel is retired. So after signing his new deal with CBS, so will he be with our buddy Spiro Ditas? Will he be with Kevin Harlan? Will they put him up there near the top? I mean, if he's good, maybe they might kick Tony Romo off in a couple of years. We'll see if he doesn't.
Wouldn't that be something?
All right, if he doesn't get his crap together, I'm talking about Romo. But it's gonna look. All this is gonna be very interesting. As we'll get, it'll be a couple months before we find out who's gonna be the broadcast lineups and teams and such. But this is a very intriguing hire for CBS, no doubt.
Yeah. And one more thing about the NFL before we move on, Lakeena. I did get a chance to check out the LA Chargers video for their schedule release last week, Lakeena. Nice job of them going with the anime edition.
Anime, you can never go with anime, especially if you do it right. Also, remember the Tennessee Titans. Remember that.
Like I said, I told you on our show last Friday. That takes the cake for me. Now the Bears, we'll get to them in a second, but the Titans, they did a great job with that one. None of that was fake, folks. None of that was fake.
Oh no, people wonder was that fake? No. Oh no, the Reds.
What is that logo? The Jacksonville Jaguars logo. The Dallas, Texas. The Dallas, Texas.
Yes, the Baltimore Orioles.
That football team with no logo.
Lightning McQueen. That one little girl, young lady said the Lightning McQueen. I said because she called what the. The North Carolina. What are they called? The Tigers or something.
What about the St. Louis Rams, Lakeena? Yeah, those are New Orleans Saints.
Well, look, they're twice. Everyone thought that was the Cowboys. That Cowboys logo. That's no. They don't play the Cowboys. That's the Colts logo. No. And that one older lady that said, "Oh, the Pirates from the Caribbean or something."
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah, that was the Bucks, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that was not fake. Kudos to their all-female social media team for the Titans. Good. You ladies, you did good. Whoever thought of that, bravo. Good for y'all.
Yes.
Bravo.
Now the Chicago Bears. You saw former Bear Charles Spina in that film, and some of the mid-major actors in there for their schedule release. I thought that was very creative. Yeah, what was that?
Seth Rollins, of course, is a big Bears fan. I know people are wondering, why is he there? Well, he's a big Bears fan, we know. So, that was a chef's kiss. All I was listening to was Gordon Ramsay. I don't know if he watches American football. I mean, he's from the UK.
Well, the Bears did a great job with that, too. Their social media team department deserves a raise, too. That was very creative.
Yeah, I like the the Ravens kept it simple with Lamar Jackson. The Ravens schedule started Lamar Jackson. Like, oh, okay, I guess you gotta keep it simple, I guess. What was another one who had a really who else on their social media that had a really good one?
I want to say Detroit. Do you see David Montgomery? Yeah, did you see Detroit's David Montgomery? He held the
Yes.
Bears logo. I was like,
Yes,
yeah, we all know what that's about.
I was waiting for that. I know he's
Yeah,
got the.
we all know what that's about.
Yeah, I mean, I know he has those games circled on his calendar. I'm sure.
Yes, he
that he's
does.
the face of the Bears, so I'm sure he's going to be wanting to have a big game against them. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, look, I think all of them did a really good job. I mean, some were really better than others, but all of them did a great job. Kudos to all those social media folks. When they work their butts off, with videos and interviews and the graphics and stuff like that. So they definitely should get their kudos. So all 32 of you guys did a great job.
Yes.
All right, City. Listen, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena McGee, Sydney Brown, once again with you after a week off. Because our girl Christine, joined us about this time. But the return of Old School TV Mondays.
Yay.
What is it this week?
Let's travel up north to quote unquote Port Washington, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And salute Step by Step.
Yes.
Step by Step was an American television sitcom that aired for 7 seasons. It ran on ABC as part of his TGIF Friday night lineup from September of 91 to August of 1997. Then it moved to CBS along with Family Matters, where it aired from September of 97 to June of 1998. Patrick Duffy and Susan Summer starred as single parents, Frank and Carol respectively, each with 3 children who wed and to form a blended family. The premise of the show went like this. Frank Lambert, a divorced contractor, has 3 children. JT, Al, Alicia, and Brendan. Carol Foster, a widowed salon owner, also had 3 children, Dana, Karen, and Mark. Both families lived in Port Washington, Wisconsin. Frank and Carol married while vacationing in Jamaica after a whirlwind courtship, and Frank had plans of an identical vacation to accidentally run into Carol. They planned to keep their marriage a secret, but Frank accidentally reveals to JT that they are married during a barbecue. He and Carol held to introduce all the children, leaving them surprised and angry at first. Each episode depicts a typical situations of a new blended family. Family members' differences cause arguments and resentments, but over time they grow to tolerate and become loyal to one another.
This is sort of like a mod. This is actually considered like kind of like a early version, a newer version of the Brady Bunch back in the day. Remember?
Yes.
So it's the same premise. Sort of the same thing. You got the widower with the kids. The widow with the kids. They blended together. This is sort of like the same thing. But yeah, I mean, I really liked Step by Step. It was great seeing Patrick Duffy in a sitcom because I never thought when I saw that he was going to be on there, I'm like, wow, really?
Right, because he came for the TV show Dallas, which was a nighttime drama. Yeah.
Yes, and some of the other shows that he's done, mostly drama and action dramas and stuff like that. Of course, Susan Sarandon, of course, also that happened with Three's Company. We didn't see her on television for like a decade, prior to that. So this is a good return by her, and also you get a nice little mix of Stacey Keenan, I remember her from My Two Dads, some of the various shows. She played the oldest, Dana, and some of the other kids that were on there. And Christopher Castile, who I saw in a couple of movies before, he joined Step by Step.
Remember, he wasn't supposed to be on that show.
Right.
They had another kid playing his part, but it didn't work out, so he was a last-minute replacement.
Yeah, so he was not on the original pilot, folks, if you guys remember. So they brought him on as a replacement. Of course, we all know what happened after that. Yeah, it was a great family situations. Nice little blend there. They added Sasha Mitchell from Dallas, who co-starred with Patrick Duffy from Dallas as Cody, his nephew.
Yeah, what up? Yeah.
Right. Definitely.
He was actually funny though. He definitely
brought a new element to the show.
Him.
Yeah, he was kind of like Urkel. He kind of saved, Step by Step because actually all the versions being canceled, but he kind of added an element to it, and the new familiar element and such. They totally changed the show, and they weren't afraid to tackle various issues. They tackled drinking, they tackled cheating, and such, and. Look, I think they went on different directions. I feel like then they brought on Bronson Pinchot. Remember that said for after he was done with Balky on Perfect Strangers. He brought another element too. He played a hair salon coworker, friend of Carol. So another different element to that. So he brought a new element there. And I mean, look, like I said, I liked the show. I thought it was great. Had that great mix of situation comedy, family comedies and things like that. A little bit of substance too. They weren't afraid to have a little substance in there from time to time. So yeah, I think I like the show for what it was, and like I said, they did you really didn't hear too much of the behind the scenes. So, although Josh Bird, who actually pulled a Judy, I guess I don't know if he left. There were different who played Brendan the youngest.
Mhm.
Once they brought on a baby,
Emily Young. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
famous for those Welch's grape juice
Yes,
commercials
I
in the
remember her
early
from those
'90s. Yeah,
right before.
yeah,
Yeah, right
she
before
replaced him. Yeah.
Yeah, so she was kind of like the kid that replaced him. So he was kind of like an afterthought after that. So I think Lily, that was her name on the show. Lily. That was
Lily,
Lily, I
yep.
believe. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it was, Jason Marsden, who I adore him.
Yeah, he played. I think he played Dana's boyfriend the last couple years
Yeah,
on
so
that
those last
show.
few
Yeah.
years, I think it was Jason or James. I think it was James Marsden. I think that was his name. And yeah, and here's a good note, Sid. They Step by Step and Family Matters were actually supposed to have been this big, big like mega finale, because I think Dana and Rich were supposed to get married along with Steve and Laura. It was supposed to have also gone to Hawaii. I remember Stacey Keenan said this years ago that they were supposed to have done this big 90-minute finale with those two shows. Supposed to be a big crossover, but unfortunately, CBS saw those ratings for both shows, and they were like, "Nah, you know what?"
That part I didn't know, because like I
Yeah.
said, both those shows moved to CBS for the 97, 98 television year, and both of them got the axe after that.
About a
But
year, yep. Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely, like I said, Step by Step. I think it was a solid TJF show, and I like TJ's girlfriend. I really liked her. I forgot the young I forgot the young lady's name.
yeah, her character name was Sam. Yeah, he was a mechanic, she was a mechanic, and they both really hit it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I like their chemistry. But yeah, I mean, look, some of the famous, of course, Urkel, Jaleel White was on there for like the second episode, I think, to kind of launch the show, because they had a little crossover thing. But yeah, I mean, look, I liked it. I think it was a solid show, and it was, like I said, it was good for what it was. And I think it's on Hulu. I believe it's on HBO Max too, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's on Tubi, I think, as well. I think they're streaming.
And also too, it's on every Saturday on True TV from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I've been watching it on there the last about 2 or 3 weeks. I know Family Matters precedes them on True TV every Saturday morning. So y'all been watching that. So yeah, it's on HBO Max, and it's on, I believe, YouTube TV as well. So you can catch those episodes as well. I had a big crush on Christine Lakeena. She played Al, aka Alicia Lambert. I know she's still working in the business. I know she had her first child a few years ago. So she's a brand new mom. So I know Angela Watson, who played Karen Foster. I think she's still I'm not gonna say an agent, but I didn't know this until a few years ago.
I think she still works in the business too. I think like behind the scenes. I think
I didn't know this until a few years ago that her parents took her money while she was on that show. You know what happened to the late great Gary Coleman when he was on Different Strokes back in the day. His mother did the same thing, which was sad. But
I remember reading about that. I remember she talked about that. I think it was like right before the pandemic, to the height of the pandemic started. Yeah, she shared this story. I'm like, wow, that's unfortunate that she had to go through that. No child star had to go through that. Should go through that, and unfortunately, she was another example of someone had to go through that. So I'm glad she's doing well, and like I said, she found another career behind the scenes. And I'm glad Christine Laker, who I gotta say, she actually looks exactly the same. She looks exactly the same as she did when she was on the show. So I know she just became a mom early this year. So kudos to her and her husband. I know they've been trying to have kids. I know she did something. I forgot what she did, but yeah, she did something really cool thing with a couple other former child.
I know which program you talk about. I cannot remember the name.
I can't think of the name.
It was with Beverly Mitchell, who played Lucy on Seventh Heaven, and Jodie Sweetin, who got married again from Full House. Yes. You know what I'm talking about? I wish that show would have continued, because it was basically making fun of themselves, and then talking about their reminiscing about their childhoods in front of the camera in the 90s. Yeah, that was actually a good show.
I like that show. I'm surprised they didn't do it anymore. I know it rated very well. I think the pandemic might have a lot to do with that too. I think there might
probably.
So but I thought that was great. I loved that. Brandon Call, I don't think he's in the business anymore. I know Stacey Keenan, I believe, is a psychiatrist, if I'm not mistaken. She walked away from the business after that show. The show ended. So I know I think she's a psychiatrist still. She's a psychiatrist, I believe. So I know she's been doing that. I know Christopher Castile, I think he's still in the business as well, I believe. So yeah, everyone's doing well. Of course, we know that I know Patrick Duffy and Susan still they do occasional television appearances and such. So I think everyone's been doing pretty well for the most part. And like Chris still got his master's. Actually teaches political science at a local university in California, and is teaching U.S. history. So he went the teaching route. So good for Christopher.
Yeah, so good for them. And like I said, it was a great show for what it was. I liked it. I remember Lakeena's, since we both grew up here in Chicago. In 1995, they were allowed the first 4 seasons were aired on syndication. Remember, It aired on. I remember this because this is the time I stopped watching Soul Train because it changed the theme song. Plus, Don Cornelius wasn't hosting anymore. But they used to come on, and I know they came on like at 5 or 6 o'clock in early evening, late afternoon. On Channel 50, the power station, but on Saturdays they used to have them on for a whole hour from noon to 1.
Yep,
I used to watch those every weekend.
Yeah, it was part of that block too. I think there were a couple other sitcoms that were part of that block too. Yeah, I remember that. So so like I said, I mean, I love the show. The sitcom was great for what it was. I mean, they tackled some issues too occasionally, but they kept it funny and they kept it light. This was from the Miller Boyette school of sitcom, so of course they're gonna mix it up a little bit. So. Yeah, it was a solid show, and I feel like I'm glad we're finally getting its due because I feel like it has never gotten its due.
Yeah, so Second City Sports, Old School TV Monday. Salute to the ABC's TJF family sitcom, Step by Step. Lakeena, close us out.
With that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yep. Don't forget, you can catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time exclusively on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right. And also, too, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere you want on Roku TV.
Roku!
Yeah, whatever apps you have, on your Roku TV or on your device, your computer, your smart TV, whatever you have on hand, just download Roku television, Sports Zone Chicago, type in Sports Zone Chicago. It's right there for you. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya. The Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cuz? I know What's Up Cuz is going to be having some interesting stuff tonight about the NBA playoffs especially. So I'm looking forward to
can Jason have more control than yours truly about the White Sox?
Well, yeah, I'm sure he'll have his say about the White Sox as well, no doubt. All right, of course, you catch it anytime you want, right there on Roku television, both whatever streaming platforms you have on your device, on your Roku TV app. So for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Enjoy the weather, enjoy the NBA, the conference finals, and also the NHL playoff conference finals as well. So enjoy all that. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox! Holla!